Today on Public Eye News, NMU students protest and there is a 3-car crash in Delta County.
Later in the show, I will have your weather, and Ross Ray will have your sports. Hi, I'm Cale Riddell.
And I'm Jillian Wormliger, and welcome to Public Eye News. NMU students and faculty celebrated Indigenous Peoples Day yesterday while also protesting the school's decision not to recognize the holiday. Students, professors, and community members marched through campus singing, chanting, and voicing their displeasure. The movement to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day began nationally in 1977 and in 2010. Yesterday, Governor Gretchen Whitmer announced that Michigan will also recognize this holiday. In the past month, NMU has established a committee to consider the change, but no decision has been made at this time. The City of Marquette plans to discuss recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day tonight during their City Commission meeting. And Michigami Township residents turned out in numbers last night to a standing room-only township board to give comment on their favorite pocket park. They held a rally at the park to start off, and after they said they weren't allowed on the docket to speak on the issue, they took to the public comment section of the meeting. The plot of land is merely 25 by 65 feet, but lies along Lake Michigami on the corner of Lake and Max Streets. They say the land has been in the community for 147 years. Also on the land is a gazebo and picnic table. The waterfront is also safe for fishing and swimming, unlike the few other public areas along the lakefront. Citizens say they hope the board elects to keep the land for public use.
Three-car crash. Three cars were involved in a crash Monday night on M35. The Delta County Sheriff's Department responded to the crash that occurred around 6:30 p.m. in Delta County. The Sheriff's Department arrived at the scene to find a black Chevy Silverado with severe damage to the front and rear end and pushed near the train tracks that were parallel to the road. They also found a rear-ended silver Volkswagen Jetta and a black Ford F-150 with rear and side damage with a dog inside the vehicle. The Delta County Sheriff's Office has stated that there are no serious injuries and that the dog is okay. And back in January of this year, 55-year-old Gary Raj was charged with killing his 63-year-old wife, Shelly Erickson Raj, while drunkenly playing with guns. Raj and Shelly Erickson had been drinking and watching Western movies when Raj reportedly wanted to show his wife a quick draw and fired the weapon into her chest at close range. The now 56-year-old is being sentenced for the crime. Raj is being charged with a first-degree reckless homicide and is being sentenced to 40 years in state prison with 20-year extended supervision. Raj pleaded guilty to a first-degree intentional homicide in February and pleaded no contest in July to a reckless homicide charge that included paying restitution and funeral costs.
The city of Hancock is discussing the idea of opting in for recreational marijuana sales. Ever since the substance was legalized statewide, Hancock was one of the cities that temporarily opted out of recreational marijuana sales. The city council wants to take more time and listen to the public's opinions first before making any changes. The city of Hancock will be holding a public hearing on that matter at 6 p.m. on November 7th, taking place at the Finlandia University Finnish American Heritage Center. And in Ishpeming, a local business known as Martin Sports is raising money for addiction recovery. The business will be selling sweatshirts with a portion of proceeds intended to be given to the Great Lakes Recovery Centers. The idea began when co-owner Scott Martin lost his sister Haley to addiction. The sweatshirts are gray and pink with downturned angel wings on the back and in loving memory of Haley Martin written down on the spine. Martin states that the business plans on bringing more awareness and wants to open up communication about these issues. And stay tuned. After this break, we'll be back with your national and international news.
Supreme Court face-off, 30 years in the making.
When Bork got taken down, they promised never to forget.
It was raw politics, and it was war.
We're not giving a lifetime appointment to this president.
We're living in the era of the McConnell court now.
Tonight at 10 after Retro Report on WNMU TV.
Welcome back. In Fort Worth, Texas, on Saturday, Officer Aaron Dean was responding to a well-being call from a neighbor at Tatiana Jefferson around 2:30 a.m. Jefferson was up playing video games with her 8-year-old nephew, and the front door was open to let in a breeze. The officer came to the backside of the house to investigate. After hearing rustling outside, Jefferson went to check out the disturbance and was shot by the officer through the window. Body cam footage of the incident shows that the officer did not identify himself as police and shot the woman without giving her any time to react. The officer has since resigned and is being charged with murder. Dean was arrested but posted the $200,000 bail the same night as his arrest. And President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, has until the end of the day today to comply with congressional subpoena to turn over any documents related to his work in the Ukrainian investigation of Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Nicole Killian has more of these details from Capitol Hill, as well as what Hunter is now saying about his work in Ukraine.
Deputy Assistant Secretary of State George Kent arrived on Capitol Hill for his day in front of congressional investigators.
We've had 30 hours of testimony. We're heading into our 4th interview. I assume this will be another 8 to 10 hour day.
Kent oversaw former Ukraine Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch, and in emails from this spring described efforts by Rudy Giuliani and others to have her sent home as a fake news-driven smear.
She was the victim of propaganda, conspiracy theory, and an organized political hit job.
Monday, NSC staffer Fiona Hill testified that Giuliani's efforts to have Ukraine investigate the president's political rival Joe Biden and his son Hunter raised flags with then National Security Advisor John Bolton. Bolton told Ms. Hill to notify White House lawyers about a shadow Ukraine policy being carried out involving Giuliani, acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, and Ambassador Gordon Sondland.
CBS News has learned Democrats would like to hear from John Bolton. Republicans who do not have subpoena power want to hear from Hunter Biden about his work in Ukraine.
The sitting vice president's son with no energy experience and no Ukraine experience gets hired at $50,000 a month because, to his own admission, only because of his last name.
Hunter Biden broke his silence during an interview on ABC News. He admits his job on the board of a Ukrainian oil company looks bad, but says he broke no laws.
I made a mistake in retrospect as it related to creating any perception that was wrong. And so, therefore, I'm taking it off the table.
Hunter Biden is no longer employed by the Ukraine company and is resigning his post with a Chinese investment firm. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The federal government has been trying for decades to save the northern spotted owl, a native bird that sparked an intense battle over logging across Washington, Oregon, and California decades ago. Researchers, including one named Dave Wines, began documenting another threat, which is the barred owl. In a last-ditch effort to see whether they can save spotted owls, federal officials are resorting to killing hundreds of federally protected barred owls. The experimental killing of barred owls raised such moral dilemmas when it was first proposed in 2012. The Fish and Wildlife Service has a permit to kill up to 3,600 owls, and if the $5 million program works, could decide to expand its efforts. Enough success has been noted that the experiment already has been extended to August of 2021. And the White House warned sanctions on Turkey would only get more severe unless the country embraced an immediate ceasefire in northern Syria. The Trump administration announced sanctions Monday as Turkey defended its invasion into Kurdish-held areas. Deborah Alfarone reports from the White House.
U.S. troops were seen retreating on a road in Syria Tuesday as Russian-backed Syrian forces advanced to help the Kurds in its fight against Turkey. Turkey's invasion of northeast Syria, now in its 7th day, began after President Trump abruptly decided to withdraw U.S. troops from the area. In an effort to stop the escalating violence, the U.S. announced sanctions on Turkey.
These sanctions are very, very strong.
The Trump administration said it will put sanctions on current and former Turkish government officials, impose a 50% tariff on steel, and cease negotiations on a $100 billion trade deal. Vice President Mike Pence will also lead a delegation to Syria to try to negotiate a deal.
We want an immediate ceasefire, and we want to begin negotiations between Turkey and Syrian defense forces.
The White House says the sanctions will get more severe if Turkey does not stop with its offensive. But a source tells CBS News that the Trump administration believes that the sanctions won't stop Turkey's invasion. In an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, Turkey's president said the operation aims to address the refugee crisis, saying, quote, the international community should either join our efforts or begin admitting refugees. There are 3.6 million Syrian refugees in Turkey from the Syrian civil war. Turkey's president says he wants to create a resettlement safe zone in the area currently under attack. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, the White House.
And stay tuned. After this break, we'll have your weather and sports.
The most dramatic moment of learning in my life happened in less than a second.
50 years ago, 5 scientists made a revolutionary discovery.
It was a flashbulb moment.
They learned how to heal a battered planet.
We found the rules, how systems work, how the world works.
Join these unsung heroes as they tell their unique story of hope, one that will change the way you see nature.
Wednesday afternoon at 3 on WNMU TV.
Welcome back. I'm Caleb Rydell, going to be taking you through your weather for today. As you can see behind me on the NMU campus, there is a lot of rain out there, hopefully not being too bad on the roads, but we're going to get into it. We have rain right now with a temperature of 42 degrees, winds out of the east-northeast at 6 miles per hour, and a barometric pressure of 29.87 inches and falling. Taking a look at tonight, we're going to see that rain stick around with a low of 43, winds out of the north-northeast at 21 miles per hour, and then tomorrow that rain is going to still stick around with a high of 46 degrees and winds out of the north at 23 miles per hour. Taking a look across the UP, we're going to start over in Sault Ste. Marie with the only partly sunny that's showing right now with 47 degrees, 48, and raining in both Manistee and Escanaba, and down in Menominee 50 degrees and partly cloudy. Taking a look at the western half of the UP, Iron Mountain with 41 degrees in that rain, cloudy in Ironwood with 39 degrees, and up in Keweenaw with 45, and raining back here in Marquette at 42 degrees and rain. Let's take a look at your week ahead. Now on Thursday, we are looking at a high of 45 with a low of 35 and some clouds. Friday with a high of 54, a low of 46 and partly cloudy. And that high is going to be 60 and 43 on Saturday with mostly cloudy. Well, we got a whole lot of rain coming our way, Ross, but I hear a sport that usually doesn't mind if there's rain, football.
Of course. Major upset for any Lions fans last night as Green Bay Packers take the game as time expired in the fourth quarter, winning 23-22. The 23-yard winning field goal was made by kicker Mason Crosby, who celebrated by jumping into the crowd after he finished off a rally for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers also completed 24 of 39 passes for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the Packers might not have been able to pull it off if not for 2 fourth-quarter penalties for illegal hands to the face against Detroit's Trey Flowers. The Lions host the Minnesota Vikings and the Packers host the Oakland Raiders, both on October 20th. And speaking of upsets, the Cardinals had an 8-1 blowout loss to the Washington Nationals in Game 3 of the NL Championship Series on Monday night. The St. Louis Cardinals are starting down a 3-0 deficit and are 1 loss away from being swept in the best-of-7 playoff. Through the first 2 games of the series, pitching, defense, and base running helped keep the Cardinals competitive, but it did not add up, adding to a devastating defeat in front of fans excited for the first World Series in Washington since 1933. The Cardinals are on the brink of elimination going up against the Washington Nationals tonight in Game 4. And in esports news, the first week of League of Legends Worlds group stage is just wrapped up with another week to go before eliminations. Europe's G2 heads Group A with a tie between China's FunPlus Phoenix and Japan's CTBCJ team in Group B. South Korea's SKT leading Group C, and a 3-way tie between US's Team Liquid, South Korea's Damwon Gaming, and the former champions Invictus Gaming in Group D. The next set of group stage matches start this Thursday at 9 a.m. And that's all the time we have for today's show. Thank you for tuning into Public Eye News, and make sure to tune in tomorrow for some more.
The preceding program was produced in studios located in the Edgar L. Hardin Learning Resources Center by WNMU